everyone. Welcome back to the How to Podcast series. I have a very inspirational guy on my podcast today. I'm so happy I listened to his show. He has some of the best guests on his podcast. I'm on his website here as well, Autism Rocks and Rolls. And yes, Sam is here. Excited to have him on the podcast. Sam Mitchell, welcome to the How to Podcast series, Sam.
Well, thank you for having me on, brother. I appreciate you letting me come on for the day. It was definitely an honor to be here.
Hey, Sam, it's so great to have you here. Tell us a little bit about your show. Come on, I want to hear about it.
So what I do is I run the podcast Autism Rocks and Rolls, and it is a podcast about autism and how we cope with daily struggles that you may or may not understand. But what the cool part is through the podcast is, one, I got to have these amazing guests, like you said, but I get to change the stigma of autism because I think from a personal standpoint, having autism, I've been through a lot of personal trauma that has really shaped me into the person who I am. And the podcast grew so much that it kind of turned into a business nonprofit with sponsors, a board of 8 people, international speaking engagements. I've spoken in Oklahoma, Orlando 3 times, Canada twice, where I'm hoping to go again. And where else? Stuart, Florida, Washington, D.C., and there's one more thing. Nope, Washington, D.C. is the final one. And then I plan events in Indiana, which is where I'm from.
Amazing. So you've come to Canada, where I live. So where in Canada have you been?
Niagara Falls.
That's right where I live. That's so great, Sam. I love it. What did you think of Niagara Falls when you saw it the first time?
Okay, so Niagara Falls is definitely a touristy place. Let me put it that way. Well, and I'm not complaining. I love touristy. Now, as far as the falls go, it's definitely an attraction. Don't get me wrong on that. But I'm the type of person who, with some things, once you've seen it, you've seen it.
Yeah.
And that makes any sense. Like, don't get me wrong, it's pretty cool to see, but one and done. It's not like, oh, let me go back. Like, I want to go back to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Once you've done it once, you've done it. So, yeah, it is a beautiful place. It's amazing how powerful that water is as it goes over the falls. But yeah, it's pretty amazing to see. I'm glad you've come up here. That's great.
Yeah, and from what I've heard too is the Canadian side, as far as looks, is more scenic than the American side.
That's good. Awesome. I love it. Tell us, Sam, how did you start your podcast? Where did the idea come from?
Okay, so my podcast started when I joined my high school's media club. Now, I wasn't doing Autism Rocks and Rolls, so this was at a time where I wasn't doing the best mentally. So I learned about my high school's media club, and I have a friend who's a Riley kid. In Indiana, it's a Riley Children's Hospital. Basically, it's where sick children go. I'm not going to lie to you. And thank God my friend's still kicking, but sick children go there with maybe autism. I'll admit that. Spina bifida. There's just something, not they just have something going on. And but they put on these really cool events called dance marathons where you stay up 24 hours, you dance the night away, you play cornhole. Yeah. I mean, it's a party. It's a party. But anywho, I saw these people come down with cameras. And I'm thinking, oh, this looks kind of cool. All right. So I talked to the person in charge. He said, hey, man, join next year. There's a lot of projects. Sure. Fast forward to the next year in the media club. That's where I found out the podcasting. Loved it so much. And it's definitely kind of my pre-meditation ways because now I'm in college now for broadcasting. So I think it's kind of a little pre-set up. But through the Thundercast, which my school's podcast was, I thought, well, I want to continue these skills I'm doing, but I can't keep coming to media club because I love it. But realistically, I can't because I'm going to graduate here soon. So I thought, okay, what can we do to continue these skills? Boom, I know. I'll start my own podcast. And that was when Autism Rocks and Rolls was born.
It's amazing. So how long have you been doing your show, Sam?
It's October 2019. You can find on Podbean, Spotify, your favorite media platform. My website's autismrocksandrolls.com where you want to see what I am doing with it because there's a lot more than just the podcast itself.
It's amazing. How many guests have you had, Sam, so far?
Oh my goodness, man. I can't keep them on a finger.
A lot.
A lot, yeah. I mean, if you pull up the website, it'll probably tell you.
Yeah, I'm on there right now. It's amazing.
I know you are. But there's a section on the website that says guest, and it's like, okay, page after page after page.
So many people. It's great.
Yeah, I have a wait list. wish I would have learned that how many people were going to be on the show. And I feel that I can't put everybody on because there's a wait list and anyone wants to go on, and I have to be kind of nitpicky. But I'm hoping I can get them all somehow.
Now, I know you're proud of every episode, but what would be some of your favorite episodes for a new listener who's going to come to your show for the first time? Where would they go?
Right. I hear you on that one. So where they would start is the Mick Foley. I
Yeah,
think that's a great
it's an
starter,
awesome one.
in my opinion. And they're both each a little different. I mean, it depends on who you are too. So my episode list is the A's. So the A's are autistic behavior. So some of those would be the 102 honesty versus bluntness, the anxiety, very early on are A's. I also have one called heightened sensitive feelings about my heightened sensory issues. And then the P's. So the one you saw, Mick Foley, that's an interview. I mean, that's just me interviewing about the Southern Spectrum, or the way you get on the podcast is you just have to have a story. My latest one had nothing to do with autism. It was just a person who got in a car crash and was left paralyzed from the waist down, who was a bail racer before. Doctor said couldn't do it. Well, Amberly basically said, "No, I'm doing it again." Popped back on the horse and won races.
Wow.
And then some of the E's, so you don't see those much, but the E's are entertainment ones. So that's where I compare something of mine that means a lot to me to autism. So I compared airplanes to autism. Scooby Doo is near and dear to my heart, so I compared him to autism. I compared a video game to autism, which was Red Dead Redemption. And then I compared another interest of mine as a child to autism, which was game shows.
Nice. How is having a podcast helping you, Sam? How are you a different person because you have a show?
Well, I feel better about myself, but now doing the podcast, I can actually go out in public and maybe not feel calm every day, but do my best to feel at ease.
Is there anything special that you have to do, Sam, to do your podcast that maybe we wouldn't think about that is really special for you?
Well, the thing that's special to me is the topics.
Yeah.
So each topic definitely has a value to me. I mean, the game shows, I mean, I watched as a young child. I thought they were amazing. So, of course, that's going to have value to me. The P's, I mean, the stories that you hear, oh my goodness, man, they're incredible. They really are incredible. And each one has a different story. I mean, one person grew up in a Jewish household family, which is fine. I'm not judging on anyone on that. But the other person was just a cowgirl from day one and moved to Utah. So it's just those elements of the stories that are different that in my brain are very surprising. I mean, my story is different from my grandfather.
What what are you learning about podcasting? How are you getting information to make your show better for you to grow as a podcaster? Are you listening to other shows?
Uh, so the way I do it is I like to stick to my own structure for certainty. That's one. But I feel like I kind of stand out from the pack. And I'm not trying to sound cocky or anything like that. It's just what I do is different than most other podcasts because when you hear an autism podcast, you're going to hear it from doctors mainly. And doctors, they're great. We had to start with them, but they'll tell you the facts. 1 in 43 people are diagnosed. They're going to have these issues. And when you look online, they treat it like it's a death sentence. Okay, to a point. I'm not going to say it is, but yes, there will be challenging days. But on the flip side, there are going to be some great days. Why aren't we looking at those days?
That's a great perspective. I think we need to talk more like that. I know for me and for my family, one of my nieces has autism. And for me as an uncle, I want to make sure that I'm doing my best for her. Any suggestions for us, Sam, on how, when autism is in our family, how we can be a better uncle, father, mother, relative?
Right. I get where you're going, buddy. So definitely be there. I mean, be there, and you gotta understand it's a two-way street, as my grandfather said. So maybe okay, your son likes waffles, but you forgot the chocolate chips, and he wants chocolate chip waffles. Okay. Well, here's the deal: we can't make chocolate chip waffles. What about blueberry waffles? You see what I'm saying? It's waffles still, but it's not chocolate chips.
Yeah.
It's blueberries instead. See, it's you gotta work things out. more often than so.
What about someone, maybe Sam, that has autism and they're thinking about starting a podcast? Any words of wisdom that you'd give to
Oh,
them?
go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it. I think a lot of people on the spectrum like things like that. I've heard a lot of people on the spectrum like television. They love YouTube. And it's good because in my brain, social media, while it has its cons, I won't lie to you on that. There's some cons that with social media, I'm like, seriously, you're doing that? But there's a lot of pros to it. Okay, a podcast, a streaming channel, a movie, even if they get the chance to act, or a television show, gives them, in my opinion, a platform to be themselves. Because in retrospect, you can't do that sometimes in public. I mean, in Walmart, there are points where I want to get away from the noise because it's so loud. But I can't because I need to get my groceries. But maybe, okay, guess what I can do? I can come on here, talk about the day, and just be myself and be this crazy, happy, and stressful personality.
It's a way for all of us, I think, to become better people as well, right?
Yeah, and everyone has their own though. I'm not saying it has to be this. I got a friend, her place is in the woods. Like that's her happy place. This this is one of my happy places. Where I'm at right now, yeah, happy place. I tell you another place, it's called a man cave. So that shows you how country I am.
There you go.
But I'm trying to get here is this safe zone. So maybe another tip here is when they get into something, provide the safe zone. So, okay, they're in the woods and country lifestyle. Let's see what we can do for them. Maybe bring out a man cave, bring out a trophy room with antlers, because I know they have that sticking out sometimes. If they like to cook, all right, make them a kitchen just for them.
The one thing I love, Sam, about being a host of a podcast is you get to ask questions of people that you might not meet normally, like Mick, for example. You wouldn't meet Mick every day on the street. So what kind of things have you had to learn to be a good host for your podcast?
Well, I won't lie to you. So when Mick was interviewed, I was happy, but there's one little kicker. He gave me 30 minutes. Now, 30 minutes is fine if you're a person who can do well under time limits. I hate time limits. Hate them. Like, I would rather have a due date instead of like, get this done in 30 minutes. Oh, crap.
Yeah.
So I'm not a guy who does time limits. So I had to learn, okay, let's try our best with time limits. If you don't get to everything, you're going to do fine. The latest episode with Amberly Snyder, the barrel race for champion, gave me 30 minutes. Now, I'm always grateful for it. I'm glad that I did it. I'm not going to be a spoiled brat and say, you need to give me more. No. I just wish I did. But because of the schedules, I can't. However, the time limit bothers me because I'm so stressed and I feel like I have to rush it and rush it. And as we know, as podcasters, we don't like things rushed. We want to sound good. We want to sound like, okay, we're enjoying our time. Not like, oh, so what's this? So what's your favorite video game? What's your favorite video game? Okay, get the answer. Next question. So we just gotta learn to work under the time limits, and it's something I still work on to this day with the podcast.
Are there any guests, Sam, that you haven't had on yet that would be a dream guest for you that might be listening right now?
Man, there's a lot of them.
Come on,
So
give me some.
Eminem's one of them for certainty.
Yeah.
And then Gordon Ramsay, he has a story. I think he can inspire a lot of people on the show. And then I've always wanted a lot of people on the show because I like them. I don't know if they have a story or not, but because they're cool, I like them. So I wish I knew if the Moonshine Bandits had someone with their family on autism. I like Moonshine Bandits, another country person.
Yeah.
Always wrestlers, so more wrestlers are always going to be dream guests for certainty. And any music stars. I like music stars. So one of the guests, Rich Beto, I had a while back ago. He had a son on the spectrum. He also has battled alcoholism. He was the drummer for Finger 11, and there's a song called Paralyzer.
Yeah.
Now, that song, he was a drummer for that song, and I got to have him on the show. And he was definitely a rock star, but I want more rock stars. You know, people who are the mic people.
I love Finger 11, and I love that song, Sam. That is so amazing. I'm glad you had him on. I would love to talk to him as well. That's great.
I'll tell you this. He has Facebook Messenger. I'll send him a message. You can say my name. He's definitely an open person. He's a really good guy.
Very cool. Yeah, I have a music podcast as well, and I bring musicians on. And
Oh yeah,
oh,
he would love you. He would like you.
there you go. Okay, we're gonna have to make that happen, Sam. And I'm so grateful that that you already had him on. I'm definitely gonna have to go listen to that episode again. That's great. Good stuff.
It is it's awesome, man. I mean, it is one of the coolest parts. And that's kind of another part with the podcast I like. And it's kind of funny. You kind of get to be kind of a stalker and get to know people's lives without being a stalker.
Yeah.
So you get to know that Mick Foley did this. You get to know Rich Beto did this. You get to know that that this latest guest fell on the horse. You get to know their lives without trying to have to be a stalker and play the creepy game of looking at them 24/7.
It's kind of neat. I love hosting a podcast and having guests on. You get to learn about people that you wouldn't normally meet. And some of these people are really in demand. Like they have people waiting to get autographs. They're waiting to see them at events. And you get to have time with them like this. It's amazing that you can do that.
That's another part too. It's one-on-one.
Yeah.
When you're with the group, they have to pay attention to everybody. That's their rules. Totally understandable. I get it. I would do the same thing if I was in that situation. But with just one person, you get all their attention. What else can you ask for? I don't care if it's for 30 minutes. I want Mick Foley's attention for 30 minutes just to myself.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a great time.
Sam, any thoughts for somebody who's listening who wants to start a podcast and maybe they're a little nervous? What would you say to them about starting their show?
Well, I say go for it. I think, in my view, though, you got to get a lot of ideas and you got to find a way to make it yourself. So I had a while back ago, I met someone when I was at a conference and he wanted me to talk to one of his clients because he was starting a podcast. Sure, happy to do that. I did, but his topic was politics. Now, I think it's great that there's political podcasts out there. However, there's a lot out there. He needs to find a way to make his political podcast stand out. Because there's probably another podcast out there about gun control when who's going to listen to a new podcast about gun control? Now, a way you could probably do it is maybe pay attention to both sides. So maybe focus on the Republican side of gun control, the people who do believe in gun amendment rights, like me, and then people on the other side who don't believe in gun amendment rights. So you got maybe looking at both sides of the story might separate you from the pack.
Okay, so what, Sam, separates you from the pack? Because what you're doing is great. So talk a little bit about what makes you different.
Okay, so I think what makes me a little more different than the others is certain factors. The factor that I mentioned earlier, which was I'm not a doctor.
Right.
2, I'm not afraid to hop into someone else's world. So the latest guest, she's a public speaker. I am too, and she's done more, but I'm not afraid to be like, hey, you want to be on my show to help me out a little bit? Sure. So it's more of taking the time to do it and not hold back in fear.
Sam, I'm on your website, autismrocksandrolls.com, and there's a picture at the top, and there's a crowd cheering. There's lots of great lights. I see a band. Can you tell me what's going on in this photo? What's happening?
So this was an event a while back ago. I think it was last year. In December, we had a winter concert at a local bar. And even though I was 19, they let me in. Turned their head the other way. But in all seriousness, what the band did, they're the local band in the Midwest called the Hairbangers Ball.
Yeah.
So they knew it was going to be in town. And we was going to set up a booth. Because Steve Haley knew the guy in Bluebird. Hairbanger Balls loved me. So they actually decided that if it was cool with me, and I was definitely down to do this because, again, a dream of mine, got to live it. I got to be a guest lead singer for the Hairbangers Ball. So that's not me actually speaking. That's me singing Highway to Hell by AC/DC.
Come on. Really? Wow. That's amazing. I love that song, too. Have you ever done anything like that before that?
Karaoke.
Okay.
Yes, but I'm not going to lie to you. I'm nitpicky on it. So karaoke, it wasn't karaoke. So in my brain, if I'm going to perform, I need something so I don't screw up. Yeah. So they definitely helped me out with that. So I appreciate the Hairbangers for that one. But as far as karaoke goes, I do it. if it's the right crowd and if it's the right music. So I'm not going to do one person in the audience and Katy Perry's Teenage Dream. I'm not gonna do that. But if
Yeah.
it's like that and it's I'm trying to song and it's rock and roll, Rockstar by Nickelback. Okay,
Yeah. A Canadian band. There you go. So that's good. It looks like the audience is having a great time, Sam, as they see you up on stage. That's
yeah.
really
Funny thing
amazing.
is, I got cheered. I felt bad. Like they may have stole their thunder because I went on there and I kind of got a louder response than them. So I was like, oh crap, guys, I'm not the star here. They are.
I love it. I love it, Sam. So your speaking engagements, Sam, did those come before you had a podcast or because you have a podcast?
That was because I had a podcast. So the
Wow.
first one was in Oklahoma. Somehow, I wish I could give you the answer on this, but they found me through social media and they're like, hey, we heard about him. You want to come and speak? Okay, sure. Now, I won't lie to you. I've done public speaking before and I've never been nervous, and I wasn't nervous at all. But and when you public speak for conferences, convocations, retreats, summits, there's always a certain format. I wasn't aware of this format that you had to do. But now, after doing it a while back ago, you now know the format and you get used to it.
So when you came to Niagara Falls, what was that speaking engagement for?
So that was called Asset. It's assisted special education technology. And this one was in particular about how technology has helped special education and those on the spectrum. So a podcast is technology based.
Yeah.
Even though I don't have patience with technology some days, I like it most days because it gives me the podcast. And it goes back to what I stated earlier with the film, the television, radio. It gives people a platform. So
So
I wish I could have spoken about more thinking out loud when I say this. I wish I could have said that technology can give people on the spectrum or a condition a platform that makes them feel safe. Because let's be honest here, I like the world, it's not safe sometimes. But technology can give me that.
so that's really, really important then, right, Sam?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you walk us through, Sam, some of how you do your show? Give us some behind the scenes. How do you find your guests? How do you record your episodes? Kind of the behind the scenes for somebody new.
Right. The first day, I mean, I literally type in day one stuff. So publish on YouTube, check mark, do Podbean, put it on Podbean. And then I like to schedule on the day before because I don't want to publish it the day before because I don't like waiting for it. And then advertise with Facebook and social media. Day two is wait. Day three is also wait. And then today, after we hang up here, because this is day four for the latest episode, I like to share it with my friends that I got and then advertise on other social media platforms like Snapchat. Then day five, same as the others. So wait. And then day six is starting the new ones and playing out the next episode.
Amazing. How about like the actual recording time when you have your guest with you? What do you use to record with?
I use Audacity.
Good.
Now, I won't lie to you. I mean, I love Audacity, but I learned in broadcasting school Adobe, and I definitely am considering maybe one day switching that because it's definitely a little easier with certain things, but I don't know about with this, my format. But as far as Adobe goes, it is really cool if you're going to use that. There's just different pros and cons with Audacity and pros and cons with Adobe.
Is your podcast video or audio?
It is mainly audio.
Okay.
However, starting season two, I decided to give people the raw edition for people who are interested in a little bit of what I do behind the scenes. So I'm putting the interviews video. Now, I'm not going to put the A and E's because you're literally going to be staring at me talking. However, you can see the conversation if it's a P. So I decided to put the P's there
Okay.
that are video.
Okay. And then so you have a YouTube channel then as well.
Yeah, it's Autism Rocks and Rolls. It's easy to find.
Yeah. It's amazing. How has your YouTube experience been? Do you like being on YouTube?
Yeah, I like YouTube. All right, definitely. The recordings are just me on Zoom or the Zoom call, so it's nothing fancy. And then I think a lot of people use YouTube, so it definitely I think gives me more of an idea and more of a platform. However, I feel like it's YouTube and there's a lot of other videos. but we'll hopefully get there to where I'm on the same level as a big time podcast or Balin Durpee. If you haven't heard of her, check her out because she's using her platform to be herself with her Tourette syndrome.
Yeah, that's another whole thing, especially for an audible thing to be able to get on with your Tourette's and be able to lead and carry that. That's super brave, and I'm so excited to know that she can do that. That's great.
Oh, it's incredible. I mean, she has gone into restaurants and has let out Tourette's, and clearly people are staring, but they're recording still because they're trying to show Tourette syndrome awareness and acceptance.
Yeah, I think that's what we all need right now. Is a little bit. We all need to create a safer space for everybody. I think, Sam.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with you, man.
Great. So, what are your plans for the future of your podcast? I know you have guests forever. That's a great problem to have. But what are your plans for down the road for your show?
I got told that yesterday. So the future for the podcast itself is hopefully get on the same level and just keep trying to help people out, spreading it as much as I can. I'm very happy to do that. I believe in this very wholeheartedly, and I'm hoping that one day that people can get to a point where autism is in the dictionary. So because I have it and my family is aware of it, it's in our dictionary. But for a family down the road who has no idea what autism is and doesn't live it, it's not going to be in their dictionary, but it needs to be.
Yeah. Again, I'm on your website again, Autism Rocks and Rolls, Sam. And one thing I clicked on was the services that you offer. Can you talk a little bit about some of the things you do to help other people?
Yeah, sure. So we do have a lot of merchandise we sell too, but we also offer podcast coaching. The big money is sponsorships, though. Now, sponsorships is basically this. You sponsor the podcast, you get advertisement. I got a new one who decided to donate, and that's the cheapest. The cheapest is based on donation. You literally donate $1, you're in. Like, that's how nice I am, believe it or not. And then second, the highest is platinum. Now, I'm not a price shy guy. I'm not a guy who's high to the prices. It's $2,000, but we also have like middle of the road statures. There's different levels, and it can accommodate anyone.
So we can advertise on your show then? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I've had a tattoo parlor sponsor me, and then they got advertisements. I had a chocolate shop sponsor me, and they got advertisements. I got a auto glass repair shop. They got advertisements. So there's a lot of variety.
Okay. So any tips for people who want to do this on their show, Sam? How do you set all that up?
All right. The way we do that is, so the first few sponsors, they came to me, and that was very unexpected. I'm happy, but very unexpected. But I did want more. So the way I thought I would get more is literally go to my two biggest towns. So wherever you are, you go to your two biggest towns. So mine happens to be Bloomington, Indiana, and Bedford, Indiana. And you go around your two biggest towns and you ask every business that you think would work. So maybe not Burger King, unless you think it would get like a gift card or something because it's a franchise, but any local business that exists. So maybe you got a local diner or you got a local ice cream shop. Okay, go to that local ice cream shop, literally tell them, hey, this is my podcast. I'm here because I believe this, yada, da, 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 da. What do you think? Now, most of the time, you're right. It will be a no. However, I got a couple of yeses. And in my brain, 2 yeses is better than 0 yeses. And I got 0 yeses. I've been bummed about before, but it's worked before. So yeah, I would say go out there. And if your 2 biggest towns don't work, try your next 2 biggest towns. Just don't go out of the country. Let's put it that way.
The other part I see too on your website, you talk about podcast coaching, podcast editing. What kind of things do you do to help other podcasters then?
So the example was with earlier, I had the guy who had a client, he wanted to know, and I did his for free because I kind of knew the guy, and I thought, okay, let's collaborate. That's something else we always believe in is collaborative work. So Autism Rocks and Rolls always wants to collaborate with someone if it's possible. I know once upon a time I met someone, and unfortunately, we believe in the same thing, but our missions really didn't align with each other. But we had the same ideas, so we really wanted to collaborate. but the jobs were kind of different. So we thought, okay, we both believe in reimagining success. Let's do a panel about that. Got a couple people who had a reimagined success, including me and her, and we all four of us just talked about reimagining success. I had another person who was a neuroscientist, and again, he liked what I was doing, but again, it was a little hard to find a way to collaborate. So we made a PSA video about neuroscientist view because he had some interesting beliefs about autism that needed to be shared.
Amazing. Okay. What about like if somebody, Sam, just wants to donate to you? Do you have a way to donate directly to you?
You give us an email, we'll do it different ways. We do Venmo, PayPal. I mean,
Okay.
we're not hard to find and we're not hard to work with either.
Yeah. So one of the things I set up on my website recently was that buymeacoffee.com. And I've actually had people donating to my show from that. It's really simple for them. They can donate as little as like $5. And it just comes to you in an email and you're like, well, that's nice of you. It's so easy, right?
Oh, yeah, it's the best, man. And I like the fact, too, that people are nice enough to do it for a good cause because they like to say I'm the product. And I hate that personally because I don't want to be. This movement is the product. These episodes I'm creating, that I'm sharing these strategies and tips and tricks on how to help someone with autism, that's the product, not me.
What about Sam? Have you heard back from any of your listeners at all? Because I think at the beginning, when we first started our podcast, it's just us talking and we don't even know who's listening. But then all of a sudden you get an email, you get a message, social media, somebody reaches out and says, Sam, I love your podcast. Have you had that happen yet?
Yes, I've had that happen. So someone actually saw me on the news. So I've been on my local news before and they saw me and I got an email from some guy on the spectrum who was in Bloomington, said he loved the story, checked out the podcast, pretty darn cool. And then I was like, hey, thank you. And there was the story on that one. It's pretty darn cool, though, that someone heard it and knows about it, too. I thought that was amazing.
It's a good feeling, right?
Oh, it was amazing. I'm very happy that I got to change one person's life. And that was the one goal, and that's still the goal of this podcast. One person's life changed, I can put a pin in it.
So you're not here to make $1 million. It would be nice to make $1 million, but you're not. It's not your purpose. You want to help people.
Yeah,
right?
it would be nice, but it's not what I'm here to do. It's here to be like, okay, let me help you out. I'm going to sleep. After I've helped you, good night.
Yeah. And then I guess the other thing, Sam, we have people listening who are looking for great speakers for their next event. And they're like, I think I need to talk to Sam. Tell us a little bit about your speaking and how do people arrange to have you come and speak at an event?
Right. So depending on where you are, where I'm not price shy again, we charge. So our minimum base, it's a certain amount.
Yep.
And then we kind of add on to it. So depending on what you want, but what I will speak about is bullying. I've spoken about changing the stigma, and I try to align it with your conference, summit, retreat. So it's about wisdom. I'll give you a lot of wisdom advice. If it's about technology, all right, we'll talk about how technology is helping you out. If it's just about podcasting, all right, I'll tell you about how podcasting's helped me.
It's great.
You tell us what to do, and we'll do it, but we're going to do it with our own twist.
Yeah. It's amazing. So I'll have all that information is on your website again, and people can find it there. Sam, for you as a podcaster, do you have any podcasts that you like to listen to as a listener?
I like mine. It's one of them.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
As far as podcasts, the sad thing is it's hard for me to do podcasts because, I mean, it's audio and it's wonderful. However, I don't see it. I'm like the guy who likes to see it too. So if I was a listener myself, I'd probably listen to the raw video over the audio because I want to see it. So that's probably why I like TV series a little better than podcasts. But I still like podcasts. Don't get me wrong. I'm obviously doing it. It's just I like to see it too. So if it was a YouTube video of a conversation, then yeah, I'd probably watch that over just something on Apple Podcasts.
Okay.
So I like podcasts that do video and audio.
Sam, do you think that, I'm glad you're saying this because I think you're opening the door up for a conversation. Do you think it might be more helpful for some podcast listeners to actually watch the video like this than just hear it? Do you think that might be a good thing for us to think about?
Yes, I think so too. I mean, I think you accommodate both people because I won't lie. There's some people out there who would rather just do audio because video is going to drive them nuts. But people want to see it. They want to see the faces, and that's as close as they're going to a video. So, yes, video needs to be for both the other side. Now, there's some, though, who aren't going to do it, not because they hate podcasts, it's because they don't know it, or it's a generational thing. I know my grandparents wouldn't listen to a podcast if I didn't do it. They'd rather watch a television show or a talk show or a game show.
I think a lot of podcasters wrestle with whether or not to do a video because they're like, well, it's a lot of work. I don't know if anybody's going to watch it. But I think maybe we're missing the opportunity to reach an audience that really would like to watch the video.
Right. And it's not hard, though, anymore with Zoom.
Right.
I mean, when you hang up here, you're going to have that file clip. And all you're going to do is go, boom, here you go.
Done. I think you're helping people make a decision, Sam, just by hearing you say that this is how you prefer to engage with a podcast. I think it's great. I'm glad you mentioned it.
Not a problem, man. I mean, I'm just my opinion.
Yeah, well, it helps. It helps for people who are trying to make a decision. So I'm glad you mentioned that. That's amazing. What else, Sam, what else can we say to people as we kind of close off here in a few minutes that would encourage a podcaster to get out there, continue podcasting, even if it feels like a lot of work? Let's encourage somebody.
We better probably talk about the editing portion too.
Yes.
Because I know I've heard a lot of people hate the editing. Now, I'm the odd duck who likes editing. So should you do it? That's up to you. But that's also another audience perspective. Some like the raw and don't mind hearing the the dead spaces. Not me. I'm like, cut that out. Let's make it sound more professional. Let's make it sound more elegant, like we're intelligent at least, and more conversational instead of getting rid of these unnecessary words. And if it were me, I would maybe get rid of one thing at least. So maybe, okay, you don't get rid of the dead space, but maybe you get the repetitive statements. So that's where they're talking about pepperoni pizza is the best, but then they say it again, but it's worded differently. We were talking about pizza, man, and pepperoni, it's so good. All right, get rid of one of those.
Yeah, I've found too, Sam, if I ask a question that it's a bad question, and my guest is like I say, what's your favorite, is blue your favorite color? And they're like, no, I don't have a favorite color. And I'm like, well, I don't really need to keep that question or answer in my podcast. I can take that out because I asked a bad question maybe, and maybe I can just take that out and pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah, that's the one cool part about media too, is you can fix yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like you make a mistake, oh shoot, it's on the air. No. With podcasting in general, you can go, you said something kind of dumb, oh, okay, here. Nah, boop, never there.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool, is you can get rid of stupidity almost right now. Now, in general, you can't with the public, but with podcasting, you can.
Yeah. It's amazing. And so is your podcast hosted on Podbean then?
Yeah, that's where the main host is. But again, it's on the favorite media platforms. You think I'm there, I'm probably there. And if you Google me, something will pop up. I'm on YouTube, Pandora, Spotify, iHeartRadio. I'm not a hard guy to find.
That's great. Okay, so Sam, tell us again the name of your podcast, maybe some shows that are coming up in the future that we're going to fall in love with. And we're going to close off here in a few minutes.
Okay, so Autism Rocks and Rolls. Now, as far as topics in the future, that's actually a little secret because the one reason why is because I'm not a person who likes to spill the beans.
Okay.
And from a personal standpoint, some of them are peas and I have to say them, but then because people like to back out because they're either get scared or life happens, I don't like to spoil anything because it could change in an instant.
Good.
I mean, 1 minute it's a P, oh shoot, they back out. Now I got to come up with something new.
Okay.
Or it's an A or an E. Oh, this big person named Rey Mysterio's coming on. Okay, I got to go fix that. So I always like to keep them a secret until they come out so that they know it's there and it's not wishy-washy.
Okay. How much time does it take from the time you do an interview to the time that the podcast goes out? Does it take months or weeks or days?
I do it every 13 days.
Okay.
So I'm not going to hide it too long because in my brain, if I'm watching a podcast, listening to a podcast, I don't want them to come out every day because that's going to get annoying, or every week because it's going to be annoying. But I don't want to wait too long because I want it eventually. I don't want it to be once a month because that's too long. And I'm not gonna be like, well, this is going out too late. I'm gonna go watch another one. But 13 days, in my opinion, is a magical number because it's not too stale.
Yeah.
It's not too fresh. It is just simply in the middle between stale and fresh.
Nice. And it sounds like, Sam, you have yourself a really good schedule. You know exactly where you are on your list every day. You are well planned out. And I think that's a great thing that many people could use in podcasting is having a calendar to know exactly where you're at.
That's probably what I like about the podcasting too, is the planning. I mean, in media, I'm not just saying podcasts in general, but films, television, radio, broadcasting itself, it's not a one-day thing. Or it's not, okay, you go to work, have a nice day. Or like you're sitting behind a cubicle or a desk. You literally get to go behind the camera and play around while also doing your thing. Maybe you can leave it for the day and then do it tomorrow, or you can do it and then the show happens and you're done. But it's not just sitting behind the desk and fidgeting with pencils.
Yeah. Is there anybody else, Sam, that helps you with your show, or are you doing everything yourself?
So the show is me. So the podcasting, what you're listening to, that's me. But as far as the nonprofit side, the speaking engagements, the events, that's my board/partner.
Okay.
Definitely a good partner. I definitely got a great team, and they help out the best way they can.
It's amazing, Sam. You have a great podcast and you're doing great things. I love your guests. I love how you host. And I think that there's so many people who listen to the show, Sam, who wonder if they can do this. And what I love is that you're doing this in a great way. You're helping a lot of people. It's opening doors for you to speak to people and do events. Having a podcast is such a great thing, and I'm so happy that you have one.
Well, I'm glad I got one too, and I get to have this platform where people can actually listen. I know once upon a time at a school convocation, someone I heard did listen. It was a young girl, and kids, she was nervous to meet me, but I'm glad she got the privilege to do that. I got to help her out.
And that's why we do what we do, right, Sam?
Yep. But definitely sometimes it feels good to know that, okay, what you're doing is good. I know a lot of people have said, I know you have said it, but actions show it too. So.
And I think that's probably the hardest part, is to put out that first episode and hope that people are going to like it as much as you like it as a host.
Well, in my opinion, your first episode always needs to be an introduction of yourself.
Yeah.
No matter if it's multiple shows, if you're a two-time podcaster, if you're a podcaster who does multiple like you, nah. Yeah. First episode, quick introduction of yourself. Or a long one, depending on how you want to go.
Yeah, and because the one thing I'm still looking at too, Sam, is even with like you, with all of the many episodes you have, somebody's going to come to your next episode, and it's going to be their very first time hearing your show. So you got to make sure that you welcome them as well as a brand new listener, even if you have hundreds of episodes. There's a new person every time.
Make references too.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll hear me say C205, da-da-da, for more information. Because there's also with my podcast, they intertwine a lot.
Yeah.
So sometimes if I think about it, I'll mention, okay, there's Red Dead. We're mentioning right now the subtopic of honesty versus bluntness, but it's also a bigger topic. So you want to listen for more information on that one, go check that one out, because I can only briefly talk about it right now because the main topic's Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah. It's good stuff. Sam, anything else that we haven't touched on that you'd like to mention as we close off the episode together?
Well, thank you for having me on, first of all, man. And definitely I'm glad that we got to meet, and it was really fun being here.
It's amazing, Sam. Again, I love your show and I love what you're doing. I want you to keep continuing. I know I don't have to convince you because you love your show too, but I'm really a big fan. So it's nice to be able to meet you and have you on my podcast. I feel really, really happy to have you here as well.
Thank you, buddy.
It's amazing. So everybody, all the information's in the show notes. Go check out Sam's podcast. It is amazing, and share it with your friends and your family, and let people know that there's a great podcast out there that helps a lot of people. And Sam is just one of the nicest guys you're ever going to meet. So Sam, thank you so much. Hey, it's Dave jumping on here at the end. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for listening to the How to Podcast series. Putting this out there for you. you're starting a podcast and you're like, Dave, the technology is giving me a headache. This editing thing is, I don't know, it's banana pants. I can't figure it all out. And you're thinking, if there was somebody who could help me with my podcast, I would pay them to do the editing for me. Guess what? I'm actually doing that. I have clients now, past guests who've been on the show on one of my other podcasts, on this podcast. I'm doing some podcast consulting. I'm doing podcast editing. I'm helping with people launching their podcast, getting it, all the technology stuff, all getting your podcast in all the players, helping you with your YouTube channel, your website. Oh, it just goes on and on. It goes on and on. And I would love to help you. So instead of going to Fiverr or Upwork, I've been on there. I keep trying to get on for jobs and nobody's paying attention to me. And I need attention. I would rather work with you as a listener of the show. So here's what I'm saying. Go to howtopodcast.ca, leave me a voice message, tell me what you need, and let's work out something that works for you and your budget. And if you need full service or you just need something quick like a drive-through type service, I'm there for you. I got you. And if you like what you hear on any of my 7 podcasts, I can do that for you. I can. And I'd love to work with you because you are amazing. And I'm there to help you, whatever you need. howtopodcast.ca. Reach out, let me know what I can do to help you with your podcast. Thank you for listening. Catch you on the next episode. Take care.